Hi, welcome to the Esha Knit Along technical video support. I'm Monique. I'm the moderator of this group. I have a blog that's called A Passion for Lace, and I sell my patterns on Ravelry as A Passion for Lace. I also have my own website that has the same name. And I'm here to tell you all about and hopefully clear things up about the Esha. I do excuse myself for looking this way because it's very hot. It's been 36 degrees or 96 Fahrenheit, and I'm not built for that. I'm absolutely not built for that, and that makes me feel very uncomfortable. And I've showered already and I'm sweaty already, so I hope this heat wave doesn't last very long because I can't handle it. I'm sorry. Anyway, I've designed the Esha in 2014. It is a way to introduce people to Shetland Lace, and specifically finer Shetland Lace, because the patterns do come out best in a finer yarn. And with finer yarn, I want to show you a visual of some yarns I have in my stash, and in support of the blog post that will be linked in the notes below for this video. I dare not call it a podcast. Anyway, there are several yarns you can use and are being used for this knit along. There are almost 100 people participating, so that makes me very happy. And unfortunately, there have been some errors in the pattern, and that really breaks my heart because I don't want to discourage people to knit the Esha or any other Shetland Lace pattern because of my fault. And yeah, the knit along started just a week ago, probably, something like that. And I'm overwhelmed by the enthusiastic reactions, and I'm very grateful to everybody, and especially to Irina for coordinating this knit along and helping with direct support and questions that are asked, with answers and blog posts and pictures. Very important, pictures. Anyway, first up, yarn. People are using Estonian lace yarn like this. It's very pretty. It's very soft and also known as Hibou. And it's on average, let me think, 1400 meters per 100 grams. This ball is only 50 grams, so for one shawl you could use 2 balls because you do need the edge. And I used a different color for the edge because of a specific reason I will talk about later. So that's the Hibou shawl. Best worked on 2.5-3 millimeter needles. I'm sorry that I'm not familiar with the US sizes. I'm not very familiar because they take different steps. With us it's half centimeter and quarter millimeters anyway, so that's what I will use. Then we have the original Shetland gossamer, somewhat fine yarn. I had a cone, so I made small balls, which I also dyed myself in a very beautiful gray. And this is 1600 meters per 100 grams, and it's a 1-ply. In comparison to this one, the Estonian lace, it's a 2-ply. That means it is more balanced and smoother. This is a bit fuzzy and woolly, and it will shrink in washing. And that's okay because that means it will be warm. It will be a little bit more authentic because of you using Shetland wool. And this is best worked in 2 millimeter, 2.5 millimeter needles, 225. That's okay. Perhaps even 3 millimeters, but that will make a loose fabric and a loose background. But for practice, it's okay. When you do buy this yarn at the wool shop, it comes with a carton like this. but it's mainly because that way the wool doesn't collapse on itself, and it's a bit more classy, I think. Up next, one of my favorites and the yarn that I used to actually knit the first Esha, and this is Hibou. It's from Hibou Textiles in New York based, but it has a Japanese owner. It's very fine. See over here. It only has 650, 70 meters on a cone, and the one cone is 1 ounce, so that's 28 grams. And I used one cone for the body of the shawl and a different color for the edge. So that's a 2-ply. It's 2-48 nm. That means that it's a 2-ply, and that you divide the 48 by 2 because it's 2-ply, so that's 2400 meters per 100 gram. Okay, best worked on 2.5 millimeter. Then next, it's a beautiful pink. I think, if I remember correctly, it's a cashmere and silk by Heirloom Knitting. She used to have her own website, but now it's a web shop on Etsy, and it comes in 12 different colors, I guess. This little ball is 25 grams, and it has 725 meters on it. It looks very thin. See, it's very thin. It's like an eyelash, and it knits up beautifully. This is the only ball I have of it, and I was a bit scared to work with it, but in the end I ended up working with even finer yarn. So, okay. Up next, oh right, okay. This is a small sample I got for focus. Yes, I see other people do this, and now I know why. You have to come in close. Very. Okay. Anyway, this is the Gossamer web, and it's Phoenix, and it's just a little bit finer than the Hibou. The Hibou is 2400. This is 2600 meters per 100 gram. And this is in a gorgeous color. It's gold. Yeah. Oh, very pretty. And I've made a shawl with it. I will show you later in this episode, in this video, whatever. Okay, up next is a yarn that is very, very thin. And I have to put on my glasses to read the etiquette because I forgot. This is Heirloom Knitting, Gossamer Cashmere and Silk, oh, it's the wrapper for the pink one. No, 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 no. No, it won't focus. It's too close. But Heirloom Knitting has also very fine. Gossamer is already very fine, but this is very, very fine. This is, I believe, very fine Gossamer cashmere. It is so thin. I was very afraid of it, but in the end I had a customer, and I put on my brave pants and suggested I would make her one in this yarn. This is so very thin. I can't even, yeah, there it is. Compared to me, see how it disappears on my dress? You can't even see it anymore. it's 1250 meters per 25 gram. It is very, very, very thin. This is best worked in needles under 2 millimeter. I haven't, but it can be done. Then there's another thing. I'm a member of very, very many lace groups. And one question that always pops up, which needles are best? And my answer, I don't know. I really don't. I work myself with straight needles. Everything I do, if I can avoid circulars, I will. These are Lana Grossa. They're 2.5 millimeters. I have almost a kilo in weight of these needles in several sizes, but there are also very, very good straight needles by Knit Pro and by to be honest, I don't know very many suppliers, because everything is circular these days, by Lieke and Hia or Haya and Chai Gu and Adi. And yeah, some points are very pointy, and I think that's a good idea, because you need the point to insert the needle into the stitches, and it's best when you that goes very easy. So blunt needle is not a good idea. If you inherited some needles, you better switch them, because it doesn't make knitting fine lace any easier. I don't have a preference for bamboo. Some people say it's handy with silk, because it's a little bit coarse and the silk won't slip off your needle so easily. And the Lieke needles are very fine for me, because well, in this weather our hands get sweaty, and the wood is very neutral in temperature. It won't take over, and it isn't sticky. And for me, it's very important that the needles are dark, and so I can see the yarn, and because I can't handle shiny needles. I do have Hias, but I only knit with them when I have to, because I don't like shiny needles. I just can't work with those. But that's my problem. If you're happy with your needles, please keep on using them, because I can't tell you what to do or not what to do. I can only teach you a way to learn lace, Shetland lace, and I'm also a thrower. I don't knit continental. I'm with circular needles. You're tended to pick up the yarn instead of me throwing the yarn, or like this. Sometimes when you have a needle, a circular needle, you tend to push it with your finger to make the stitches go forward so you can knit them. But in all the years that I've been knitting, I've developed my own technique. And what I do is I do this. I hold the needle with only a few fingers now, and then probably with my pinky most, and then with my ring finger and my thumb I pull on the fabric to yeah, let me show you. It's now over here. My point is over here. And what I do is this. See? Go forward and forward, forward, forward. So I hold on to the needle with my pink. Then with my ring finger and my thumb, I pull the fabric down, and with this one I push the stitch forward, and when pulling down, the needle on the other side goes in more easily, and the stitches open up, and with that I get great tension and a very even work. Okay, up next, Shetland lace is based on a garter stitch, so that means that all rows are knit. All rows are knit. That means you have ridges. That's okay, because the finer you work, the less you see the ridges. Because, let me show you, back in the old days, they spun it. I've seen it, I can't do it yet. But then you get like this. This is the extra fine yarn, the gossamer I showed you, on a 1mm needle. Do you see any ridges? Nope, no ridges, only lace. The yarn is so fine that the ridges disappear. But you do get stretchiness and the ability to make a lace pattern in every row, because that's our goal. And with knitting lace in every row, you get a new skill. You level up, sort of, in my opinion anyway. Right, okay. The garter stitch makes it stretchy, and that's why you have to block it, because you have to put them in the right order. And why isn't it focusing? Nope, not focusing. Okay. Because you have a right side row with the garter stitch, and there's no wrong side row. Okay, let me explain. When you learned how to knit, it's very likely you learned a right side row, and that are knit stitches. Then you learned a purl side row or wrong side row with purl stitches. That made an even fabric with stitches that lie on top of each other, nice and easy. And the dress I'm wearing is made of stockinette, like knit and purls, and it's very stretchy, but it stays in shape. The garter stitch is very flexible and even more stretchy, and because it's knit in every row, it when you use a fatter yarn, it won't stay in shape, but when you use a finer yarn, it will stay nice and straight, or triangular, or whatever you want. Anyway, the thing I say when you get a class of me, when I teach Shetland Lace, is that it's like building with Lego blocks. The first row is a row of Lego blocks, and all those blocks are knit stitches. Then you turn around, sorry, excuse me, and you make another row of Lego blocks with some sort of pattern. And then you turn around and you make another row with lace and knit stitches. And the rhythm that it has might be easier to understand when you give each Lego a different color or a different name. So, for instance, a yarn over is yellow, and the knit together is a red one, and the knit stitch is green. So then you can build up a pattern of green, green, yellow, red, green, red, yellow. Then you have a knit stitch, knit stitch, knit stitch, knit two together, yarn over, knit stitch, yarn over, knit two together, or slip, slip, knit, and then knit stitches. And with that rhythm, you build up your work. You get layers. And in a stockinette stitch, you have a purl row when you go back. And then those are, for instance, blue stitches. Then you do a whole row of blue stitches, and all will be right. But when you do that, you build a project with rows and an even surface, no ridges, and the yarn overs are round because you have a purl row. And hold on, I will have to pick up something to show you. Okay. Knit stitches, purl rows, yarn overs, and lace. Yeah, you see? All the yarn overs are round. And the corner, or this bit, this has an almost 45 degrees angle. So, like this, 45 degrees. See? It's a triangular shawl. These corners are very, very straight. Okay, not a problem. But when you omit the purl rows, you can do much more. Now, there are no purl rows, so that's one row less. And then what happens is this. This. See? No more round. Those are square. Right? See? Square. Or rather rectangle, but not round. And each hole is single. Each yarn is not twisted by another yarn to make. That will happen when you make a purl row. But in this pattern, you don't have any purl rows. Did you see the ridges? No ridges. Okay. They are there, but they're so fine. The lace takes over and you don't notice the ridges anymore. Okay, now for the Esha. There is a book by Sharon Miller, the same one of Heirloom Knitting, the Etsy shop. I was so fortunate as someone that gave me her knitting Bible, and it was a Bible indeed because I learned very, very many things. Also, what I learned was that with Shetland Lace there is 1. All knit rows. 2. All rows have lace. 3. No purl rows. There are purl stitches, but no purl rows, usually. There's one exception. Someone pointed out lately that, of course, the print of the wave is in Garter Stitch, or in stockinette. But otherwise, all Shetland lace that is in the museum in Shetland and in the Bot of Grimista and in Unst is always Garter Stitch based. But what I did for the Esha is break it down for you and make a pattern that would make it easier for you to learn how to read the Shetland charts and how to knit the patterns themselves. Because what Sharon Miller did was give pages with a single pattern on it, like a spider, a bird's eye, a bead, a strawberry, lots and plenty of it. And what I learned when I was in art school is to observe. And in the end, I decided that when I observed the book, it was very, very educational. But even though she explained everything, there was one thing that, not overlooked or skipped, but it's a mindset that you need. Oh, let me chase the new little kitty away. Here she is. Kitty, 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 kitty. Okay, bye-bye, kitty. What you need to know about Shetland Lace is, because it is garter stitch, you need to learn some patterns by heart. Because in the Esha, I put them in a diamond. They're nicely enclosed and in Lego block structure, so very small and then repeated. And the patterns don't mix, they stay within their diamond. But when you knit Shetland lace like that's on display in the museum, it mixes. And then some very different things happen because, and it's not to confuse you, but to make you acquainted with the patterns, parts, like the spider or the beads or the bird's eye or the diamond in itself. Kitty, kitty, please stay away from my lace. Please. You're not allowed. Sit. Okay. Because what happens when you... there are Shetland patterns that are overall. You knit a shawl and it has only beads or only diamonds or only different things. That's okay. But you do get familiar with the pattern. Sorry, kitty. But there's another thing that doesn't happen that you need to understand. Because when you knit a shawl like this, and especially with the border, see? They mix. This pattern flows into that pattern because when it starts, see here, you're still working on this one. And when you were working on this one was just ending. And when this one was beginning, this one was just ending. So this is what makes Shetland lace so special, because this was something that couldn't be done on a machine. A machine could handle only 3 patterns, and these are 3, 4, 5 in one row. And the main thing that's important is when Sharon Miller in her book showed us for instance, the spider or the bead. You know, it has 6 or 7 stitches wide and 4 rows high, and then you just insert it. But when you're working, please, kitty. Oh, there comes the other. When you're working these patterns and you're working on this, then it could be, and this is the important part, it could be that when you're working on one part of a pattern in one row, that's for instance beginning of a new pattern, it could be that just a few stitches down the needle you were working in a wrong side row with another part of the pattern. And that is not what's happening in Esha. I made sure of that. But that makes it very clear that when you learn the 11 patterns that are in the Esha, that when you see them and you make yourself familiar with them, that you know how to make them without looking. You have to read your knitting and you're seeing in a pattern, oh, I have to start a bird's eye now. And then 10 stitches later, you're in a ladder and you're going up just 1 stitch and 1 yarn over, because the ladder is making a triangle and it will end later. And in the meantime, something other happens. And I know it sounds very confusing. I know. So the thing is with Shetland lace that it's more like an insert pattern here bit, because the women that made the designs and the shawls were so familiar with it because they have knitted it so often that they didn't think about it if it was front or back. And that is why all boxes with the chart are one color. In other designs I made, I have a purl row that's often gray to make sure that a knit row is distinguished from a purl row, to help you remember where you are. But when you look in the book by Sharon Miller, you will see that every page just has a basic grid and patterns are inserted. And there are row numbers, but when you see a different page, the same pattern could be used and has a different row number and is shifted 1 row, but it's still the same pattern. So like I said, it's like insert pattern here, and that could be on the wrong side row because there's room, and it could be on the right side row because there's room. So the thing with Esha is to introduce you to the patterns that are most common in Shetland Lace, and so that when you see them in a new design or in another design by me or Sharon Miller, or I hope I pronounce it right, Eileen M. Doonan from Ireland, Aisling. Eileen? Yeah. I hope I pronounce it right, but she has some Shetland, beautiful Shetland designs too, and there are many more who have Shetland designs, not only me, thank God. Anyway, so we are so familiar with the basic building blocks of the Shetland Lace that we insert them here, here, there, and that's why when you know how they are built up, then you can insert them anywhere. Like, let me compare. Like building a sandwich or a hamburger. You start with a piece of bread, then you put on some lettuce, and then you have some meat and a bit of sauce, and then a bit of lettuce, and then another top of the bun. Okay, so that's 5 layers. Then you insert a hamburger here. And it could be that it could be on a shelf a bit lower over there. And when you see the bun, the starting of the bun, you think, oh right, that will be a hamburger. I'm at the lettuce part, do this. And then a few stitches in the same row, you find ice cream, a cone, and a bit of ice in it, and some whipped cream on top. And while you're at the bottom of the hamburger, it might be that you're already at the whipped cream on top of the ice cream in the same row, because insert here. I know it is much to take in, and I'm trying to do my best to explain how things are built up in Shetland Lace, and the kitties are messing with my lace. Okay, here's the other. Here's one, and here's number 2. Kitty, 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 kitty. Is it cute, cute, cute? Go, go. Go play. Okay. So, with the Esha, you start out with the diamond. The thing is, in the pattern, I've said you can read the rows in the beginning of the first 3 diamonds anyway, every row from right to left. That will make it easier, because then you don't have to switch in your mind that when you turn your work, the chart should say something different. But I've learned from Sharon Miller that because you insert here, insert there, there's no... it would be very messy if when you have a diamond and the knit together and the slip slip knit would go like this: first row, second row, first row, second row, first row, second row, of first, second, third, fourth, like that. It will be very uneasy on the eye. Also, when I use the same diamond in a different pattern or a different design, it could be insert here, and it will be first row, second row, first row, second row, like that. Don't know. So the idea is very visual. The chart is very visual. When you knit the diamond, and you print it in the right way on paper, it should be possible that when you make the boxes rectangle instead of square, and that when you lay out your knitting on the paper, the yarn overs would match and line up on the paper. And the shape in the end will be a diamond, just like on the paper. So rather than making a messy diamond, you get a picture of the overall look of how the design will be. Then you understand that when you turn the row or insert here, insert there, it goes away. In the end, when I knit fine lace, I have very teeny tiny metal stitch markers here. See, there's a ring. But on the other projects I have like elastic bands, and usually I have a pink one on the beginning of the row and a green one on the end of the row. And that is for me an indication of towards the right side and the wrong side. I don't use it to remember what is the right side or the wrong side. I use it to see when I knit the center and the first border, and I knit then the second border, and I have to sew them on that the right sides are matching, so that the green band matches with the pink band on the other side, so that when I graft them together they match. Okay. Yeah. Another thing, right? I can't show you because I gave the Esha to my aunt. She's very religious and she wore the Truly Something to church so much it was worn down. So as a gift and as being very grateful that she wore the shawl so much, that I gave her the Esha to replace the first one because it was beyond repair, because it was 100% cashmere, and so she can wear the new one to shawl to church, and then I will probably have to knit her a new one in 4 or 5 years. Okay, so the thing what I did with the Shetland Esha is I made the decision to use a different color for the edge, and that was because when I had a class, it's my job as a teacher to show you what Shetland Lace is all about, and if you don't understand it, it's my job to find another way to show you or to tell you, because I'm the teacher and you're there to learn, and I have to find a way, because some people are very visual knitters, they need visual support, and other people are working from written instructions very well, and so I have to find a middle ground or something to show them to make clear how things work. And there was one lady, I can't remember where or when, but it stuck with me, that when she was knitting on the edge, she also was knitting on the shawl. The shawl and the edge became detached from each other by a triangle because she knitted on the shawl part too. But that's in the instructions of the shawl. That's the wrap and lace for the corners. This is a corner. And with the edge it goes in the same height as the knit stitches, because when you knit a shawl, these are knit stitches going up, and when you knit an edge you work that way and that way, but in the end the edge stitches have the same height and the same width as the shawl stitches. But to remember which stitches belong to the edge and which stitches belong to the shawl, a different color will come in handy, because when you knit the edge to the shawl and connect them, you don't want to knit these 3 stitches because they come up the next time, the next time, and the next time, and then the edge is attached to the shawl. So when you use a different color and a stitch marker, it will be easier to differentiate the one from the other. Okay, so when you knit an edge, beautiful edge, this is a point where you connect them. But I have also a design where you start with the edge and then turn the corners and then work your way up the border with an edge on either side too. So that ridge that you see here, that's open row bit, that's not there, that's just plain stitches. Kids are fighting. Okay. Well, did I have everything now? Right. Here comes a very important part, and I'm already red from the heat, but believe me, I'm very ashamed of the flaws that are in the pattern. And the thing is, I've been knitting with my blog since 2006, and Revelry came in 2007. I didn't sleep for a month because of all the things I saw, And I started knitting Shetland Lace in 2008, I guess, because someone pointed it out for me. And I got my first commission to make a Shetland shawl. And because I have no life, I have a small postal worker job. And my husband is away a lot. He's an international truck driver. And I knit a lot of lace. And when you do things a lot, you get better at it, at least, I hope. And what that means is that, although, really believe me, I try very, very hard, I sometimes overlook things. They are so familiar to me, it doesn't even come up. So with the Esha in pattern 4, there are double yarn overs, and cats are still fighting. Anyway, in pattern 4 there are double yarn overs for the bird's eye. And the dots in the pattern are placed wrong. I stated earlier that in the beginning you can read every row from right to left, but in pattern 4 you need to read the row with the dots. The purl stitches that you need to insert in the double yarn over from the previous row are wrong. And I think I blame it on the fact that insert here, insert there, I didn't even think twice. Because in my mind, there are no right or wrong rows anymore. So I did think about helping you read the charts, so it would be easier, because when you have this, it's a bit easier for some, but more difficult than others. And I hope that with this video, the explanation will be more easy for the knitting the pattern, without even actually showing you, but to make a different mindset possible for you to execute Shetland Lace. And I've had some trouble with other patterns before, and that I found out last year that that's mainly because with Shetland Lace I do a very different preparation than with normal lace. And with Shetland Lace I have a long way of preparation. It's literally sitting behind my computer, insert here, insert there, and copy paste and correct and count. A lot of counting. And where things go wrong is when I write out patterns like the heart. I'm sorry, things go wrong in my head. I just read over things, I skip things, I miss things, and I don't even notice it. And I'm very, very sorry, because that's not my intention. I really want you to learn Shetland Lace and, well, to be honest, feel the passion that I feel for it, because it's truly a skill that not very many other people have. So you stand out a bit, and when you stand out you get a bit of attention and people admire your work. And with all things, it's an investment of time and effort, and I was glad to make that. And my children are, the youngest is 16, and when she goes to school or goes to bed, or when she goes to her friends or is lying in a pool somewhere with her friends right now, that gives me knitting time. I have a very boring life. My husband is away a lot. I don't smoke, I don't drink. I knit. That's it. Knit, 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 knit. And yeah, when I write things down, things sometimes go wrong. And because it's a very small part of knitting world, I'm not complaining. Things are going well for my part of the knitting world, but I don't get much revenue, no, benefits, income. And really it's let's be honest, I've made the design for the Esha in 2014, and that's 5 years ago, almost to the day. And I've sold in those past 5 years as many as in the last 10 days. And that's 200 patterns total. I can't afford a tech editor. I want to, and sometimes have a test knitter. Susan is a good one, Sue is a good one, and some here in Holland, and Gerta from Belgium. Very, very good test knitters, but they don't always have the time. And the bad thing was I didn't have the patience because I was so eager to publish them, and I had already knitted them. So, yeah, I'm sorry if there are any flaws. I hope that my getting over myself for being on video will prevent you from making any mistakes, and hopes you to help you read the charts, and hopes to help you read your knitting, because once you have developed the knowledge of how a diamond should look and how a pattern should look, then you recognize it. That will make it easier. That's why I always say swatch. Make a swatch, get to know the yarn, get to know the pattern. That will prevent mistakes if you have to repeat them 5 times wide and 30 times up. And just practice. Believe me, not everything goes right in my knitting world either. I make mistakes, even with my own designs. I knit a new one or an old one, and I think, oh, I got it, and then I missed one. Happens. So don't worry. Use your lifelines, very important. They're described in the pattern, in almost any pattern, because I know how difficult it is. And yeah, just try it. It could be that it's not for you. I know that it's not for a lot of people because, one, it takes up a lot of time, a lot of effort. The local yarn shop won't be happy with you because you probably won't be in there for another 3 or 4 months for the next project, if you still want to. And internet will be your best friend because you got a lot of knitter friends over here. We've almost got 3,000 members in this group from all over the world, including everyone. And I'm very grateful for that because I don't want to distinguish between race, gender, political choices. No, just knitting. Only knitting. And the passion for fine lace. That's it. Because we could do with some beautiful work in the world. Right? Okay. So, Esha on Ravelry and Etsy shop, passionforlace.com or kantwerk.nl. All my patterns are available in Dutch, English, some in French, and one even in Japanese and in Icelandic. But those are not Shetland Lace patterns. And, well, just look me up for a chat. Or go to my Facebook page, find Shetland Lace, and join the group and see what happens. You get a lot of new friends, and you learn a new skill, and you have a great time, I'm sure. We like a good sense of humor. I'm looking at you, Margot, and Karen from Australia. Keep up the good work. Have a fine knit. Bye-bye.